What's up, everybody? I'm gonna get this rolling here. Give me one sec. Good. Alright, better plug this phone in here. Alright, today we are talking about why we overeat. And there's a million reasons. So it's impossible for me to cover every reason why. But today I want to talk about the main reasons why we overeat and some tactical strategies we can use to basically prevent it from happening or to sort of reduce the quantity of damage that we do to ourselves, right? So I am trying to figure out here how I can take a look here and see. Make sure I don't miss any of your messages or anything like that. So I gotta get my, still a streaming noob here. Anyhow, let's dive in. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. I'm happy to answer. And just want to make sure I can see you guys. All right. So let's see if there's a way I can share my screen here. Maybe not. So virtual camera, studio mode. All right, I'll have to figure this out next time before our next class. But so I would say the three main reasons that we overeat. Typically, I would say number one is because food just tastes so damn good. I know, right? So hyper palatable foods, pizza, chips, Doritos. I'm a huge fan of the Doritos. So they are what we call hyper palatable foods, which is a fancy way of saying they just taste too damn good. Right? So the thing about hyper palatable foods is they are designed by food engineers or restaurateurs and chefs, for example, to shut off your signal to stop. And they do that by combining some combination, usually of salt, sugar, fat, and starch. Right? And once you add these together, plus some form of texture that is highly desirable to our palates, like, for example, Doritos, they actually have a stress test for the chips to see at how much stress it takes before it crunches to give you that perfect crunchy, crispy texture in your mouth. So all these things combined actually shut off your mental signal to say, hey, I've had enough. Like, it's time to stop. So it completely removes your ability to moderate. So if you're not consciously using your mind to stop yourself from eating, you will continue eating like many of us have experienced, and I still do to this day. You'll look at the empty bag of Doritos and be like, what the hell have I done? Right? So these foods are designed, and restaurateurs, it's literally in the training book for restaurateurs, like how to make, and like this is how they train menu engineering. If you do not have some form or some hyper palatable food on your menu, there's probably like a 99.9% chance your restaurant will fail. Restaurants are already a high failure business. I think like only 25% of restaurants make it past like 5 years. So if you don't have one of these on your menu, there's absolutely no way you're gonna survive. Hey, thanks for coming in. So yeah, so just know that at every restaurant and every food product that's ever been designed, it's really based. Hey Sue, thanks for the like, thanks for popping in. But every food product, they're designed to sell you pleasure or sell you an experience, right? It's not. Things are not designed for your health or nutritional needs. Very few. I know like now there's probably more healthy options out there, but even then they're playing with the best balance of being able to make you buy the product and make sure you can continue to be a customer. Yeah, well, I mean, it is a little bit sad, but also it's just it's capitalism, right? I don't want to say it's good or bad, because you do want to have a good experience and have flavor, right? And so life wouldn't be very fun if there were no pizzas or Cokes or Doritos, right? But we as intelligent consumers, we just have to make sure we understand that's the environment we live in, and we have to exercise some restraint. So to say that these corporations are evil, I personally just don't agree with that. You know, they're providing a product or an experience that many people enjoy. It's up to us as consumers to enjoy them responsibly, right? And so, you know, if we say it's their fault, then we basically say like we have no responsibility in maintaining our own health, which is just not true, right? Hey, Maya, thanks for popping in. Yeah, so I think first step in terms of this battle against hyperpalatable foods is understanding that this is the situation. Like we must know that anything that tastes so good, like you just need to understand that you cannot eat to 100% full with these foods, or your calories will be way overboard. All right. So we oftentimes will, you know, I think a lot of us, and myself included for many years, we maybe like diet all week. We have all these good healthy habits all week, and then when we choose to have the hyperpalatable foods like really delicious pizza, we then go nuts and we eat as much as we want, right? Which those are the times when you have to exercise the most restraint, is when the food tastes really good. That's like when you want to portion control, right? Yeah, 100%. We got to exercise too, for sure. It's a balance, right? And a lot of people will argue, what's better for fat loss, exercise or nutrition? I mean, you really should be doing both, right? Now, is it true like you could do a ton of exercise and never lose an ounce of fat if you just eat too much garbage? That is 100% true, but there are still benefits to exercise beyond just fat loss, right? So But so exercise is a must, but watching your food intake is also a must as well, right? But back to battling hyperpalatable foods, right? So part of it is understanding that we should not be eating to full, if ever, on these types of foods. It should be, it's kind of like, you shouldn't, not every meal should be like a party in your mouth, right? Like you can't, some people might be functional alcoholics, but you can't really party every day and expect to get the most out of life or do a good job at work, right? So, or you can't just seek pleasure in every area of life all the time and expect to have a good outcome. So the same with food, right? We can't eat the most delicious things all the time and expect to have a healthy body. Just not possible, right? So understand the situation. And the other part is to control your environment a little bit better, right? So instead of having a house full of family-sized bags of Doritos, which isn't ideal, and there's a rule. If there's something in your house, you will eat it. And most of the time you'll eat the best. And the order in which you eat it will be the best tasting thing first to the healthiest thing last. That's just how it works. Like, can anybody can tell me if they do eat things in a different order, and I'll be very impressed. You are 100% the outlier. So control your environment. Make sure the healthier foods are around your house and easily accessible. And the hyperpalatable foods like the chips and the ice cream are a little bit harder to get. My best way is to not have them in the house. And maybe on the weekend, like, okay, I'm going to have Doritos today. I'll go out and buy the normal sized, not the massive size. Maybe go buy an ice cream treat instead of the pint, keeping the pint around, right? I am the type that will take that whole thing and eat half of it, feel sick, and wonder why I did that. So a little bit of planning, a little bit of changing the environment can go a long way, right? And then planning how you enjoy these hyperpalatable foods, right? So let's say you have a wedding coming up, somebody's getting married, and you have a plan to go there, enjoy, celebrate with them, right? So you kind of have this whole thing worked out in your mind, how you're going to treat the weekend. Yeah, thought the family size one was for one person. That's 100%. If we go based off of our feelings, then that is 100% true. That's how the family size. Yeah, there's a family living in my belly that needs to be fed for those Doritos. But yeah, so planning your enjoyment, right? Let's say, like, all right, this weekend I'm gonna have a nice meal out. So instead of like just eating whatever you want for the whole day, right? You can have a plan. Let's say I'll enjoy, a specific portion size of the Doritos. If you have a little bit more restraint than I do, for example, you could buy the family size, but pour out like a specific bowl to, share with the family. And have that be it, right? And you could do that every day. You could have Doritos every day. And if you have a specific plan for the portion size you're going to have, totally okay, right? So that's sort of the key. Like if you want to enjoy the good stuff, you got to have a plan for how much you'll have as a reasonable portion size, and then you can do it pretty often. And that sort of in your mind, I know I'm the same way. I have no restraint. But yeah, if you have a portion size in mind, if you have a little bit and you tell yourself, hey, I can stop now because tomorrow I can have the same amount again. And in doing so, like you turn off that sort of scarcity mindset where, if you're very restrictive all week and then you get to taste it just one time, you'll go crazy because in your mind, in the back of your mind, if you stop eating now, you won't have it again for another week. And that's very daunting. It can be challenging. So control your environment, have a little plan, and that's a great sort of approach to being able to enjoy yourself but not going nuts. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally depends on the lifestyle. So it's sort of everybody's different, right? So anytime I give advice, or I give an example, like an advice, it's not necessarily always going to work for everybody. So what works for one person may actually trigger them to eat more, right? So it's you will have to be mindful, and that kind of brings me to my next topic about being mindful. Is the other reason we tend to overeat is because of our emotions, right? So what I mean by that is eating can often be triggered by a lot of different things, stress, anxiety, boredom even, or it could be hunger, right? Or it could just be a craving, right? So these are a lot of different reasons that we do eat. But when we don't when we're not mindful about why we eat, that's another big reason that we overeat, right? For example, if we eat because we're stressed, in reality, you're not eating to feed your body's nutritional need, right? Sue, what's up? Thanks for coming in. So yeah, for example, if you're eating out of stress, and many of us have this problem, right? So if we eat due to stress, and the reason that happens is stress can raise your cortisol levels, which induces hunger, right? So when our body doesn't need additional nutrition, we cope with the stress by eating. And what that does is it gives us comfort and dopamine. And so that calms the stress, right? But that leads to overeating because we didn't need that nutrition in the first place, right? So the strategy then could then be to address the stress, right? Maya, great question. So how do we control ourselves if we have stress, right? And so the first step with that is identifying okay, I'm actually feeling really stressed, right? And I use that, or I use food to calm that stress, right? So there's two parts to that. Number one, is there a strategy that I can use to directly address the stress? And could be a lot of different ways we do that. It could be meditation, all right? Meditation, I used to be the type of guy who was like, oh, meditation, who needs that weird spiritual weird crap, right? But in reality, I've totally... Preston, what's happening? So yeah, I totally turned my mind 180 or like 180 on this on the meditation. It because the science has slowly caught up. Like there's a tremendous benefits to meditation as measured by scientific evidence, right? Blood pressure, physical changes, right? So meditation can be a big one, and that might even just be like closing your eyes and doing box breathing. Just breathe, taking deep breath in, deep breath out, and just focusing on your breathing, right? So if you feel like you're a stress eater, before you dig in, just close your eyes, breathe in and breathe out. How do we meditate? I tried it a few times, but I really couldn't focus. What is your best advice? Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not a meditation expert, so I don't want to give too much advice on this, but I would say that in reality, you not focusing means that it's working actually. So when you first start meditation, it is very difficult to focus. That's just how it is. And it's kind of like anything you start, you're going to be bad at it, and that's normal. And when you feel that challenge, that means, it's something that's good for you, right? And so when your focus goes away to something else, like you start thinking about your day or all the work you didn't do, right? Or all the stress you're dealing with. You'd be like, you just tell yourself, hey, that's okay. My mind went there, and now I'm just gonna bring it back to my breathing, and just focus, bring it back, and always allow yourself. Yeah, always allow yourself to and be like, it's okay. I messed up. That's totally normal. I'm just gonna come back and bring it back to my breathing. Okay. Yeah, it is. It isn't so easy. It isn't so easy. But I would suggest like trying out. You can try out one of those. There's a lot of apps nowadays that do guided meditations. 9 a.m. West Coast. So yeah, Preston, that's okay. We can, like I said, we can sort of like. I'm happy to plan something that works better for the West Coast. So we can talk about. Figuring out another time that works well. But yeah, so meditation, it is a practice. Like when you first start, I couldn't focus for more than like 5 seconds. I would start thinking about what work I had to do or whatever, and then it is frustrating at first. But then maybe the next time you can go for 6 seconds, and then for 7 seconds you can breathe and just focus on breathing, right? And then maybe it slowly becomes 10 seconds, and then a minute, and then 2 minutes, and then slowly you get better that way. So it is like anything else, a skill that you only get better by practicing. All right. And so, meditation is not for everyone too. Like if you're not into it, that's okay. I struggle still, even to this day, to continue to consistently do it. So another way you can beat the stress when you're getting too stressed out, and maybe that's triggering eating, is to maybe go for a walk outside, breathe some oxygen, get some sunlight. Or maybe doing a little bit of exercise, all these different. There's a lot of different ways you can give it a try and see how it goes. I'm gonna invite Preston here. He just wants to hop into the live video here. Preston's got something to share about the meditation. So. Yo, Preston, what's up?
Just heading out. But the whole thing, I think, what a lot of people don't understand about meditation, the only reason someone has a question about it. Okay, by
Awesome. Sergio Armstrong.
Another buddy in the garage creeping up on me.
Yo, what's up?
But so for meditation, I think a big thing is when you don't feel like you're in control. That's a big thing, is because you don't have space to get yourself right. And so when I had some really bad stuff happen to me, I got into swimming because I didn't want to sit and be quiet and just be there. I started swimming, and the swimming part forced breathing, and breathing is what gets you right. So I think the point of meditation is just breathing. If you want to run, if you want to dance, I mean, it really doesn't matter, but that's like the breath part. I think the second part
100%.
is clearing your mind, because people who can't sit still, it's like a child. You got nervous energy. You have to learn how to get rid of that nervous energy and grow the fuck up a little bit, right? And that's really what happens.
Yeah.
And I think so. You can find a way to sit and just be, and then just breathe. That's everything. When you get angry, that's what you got to do. Just sit and breathe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think anyone who's looking at meditation, take all the bullshit away. Just sit and breathe. You don't need anything.
Yeah. And
Do that. That'll change stuff. Anyway,
100%. 100%. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, just the breathing, like focusing on your breath, how it feels coming into your nose, how it feels coming out. Feel your chest going in and out. Like that's all. I mean, just that alone can be just like super powerful. Super powerful. Preston, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a huge help. But yeah, so I think back to what we were talking about with overeating. So finding the root cause and being mindful about why you're eating. So stress, love you too, brother. So stress, if you're eating because of stress, you want to address the stress. You don't want to, eating is a replacement for the comfort you would get from addressing the stress, right? So, and that meditation or the techniques like walking or exercise might not be enough, right? So there may be something in your life that you need to address. There may be something in your life that is causing stress, right? Maybe it's maybe it's a relationship you have. Maybe it's something at work, right? Maybe it could be anything, or maybe it's like the garbage in your garage that you didn't clean out, right? If you can use these techniques to erase the stress immediately, but if there's some action you're not doing in your life, for example, you won't have the hard conversation with your wife, right? Or if you won't have the hard conversation with your husband or parents, or you don't clean the garage, or you don't get your work done, you may meditate and erase the stress for 5 minutes, but the stress will keep coming back because you're not taking the actions you need to remove that stress from your life, right? So a lot of times stress-wise, there are techniques to reduce stress from things that are out of our control, but sometimes there are things within our control that we have to take action on to address, right? So that's just another tangent on the stress part. So just be mindful about why you're eating, and then think about ways to address that. So another emotional reason we eat, maybe out of boredom, right? Maybe we're just bored. We don't have anything to do. And I've done this all the time. I still do this. If I'm not doing anything, I'll just pick up a snack because I don't know what to do with myself, right? And that leads to overeating, obviously, because you don't need that nutrition, but you're just putting something in your mouth because it tastes good, it makes you happy. And so when you eat out of boredom, that's easily a very common reason that we overeat. So if that's the case, for example, then you need to figure out how to fill that. Yes, Preston, you got to figure out how to fill that void, right? You got to figure out how to fill that time by doing something that's meaningful, right? And so I mean, again, this could be like a sort of soul searching sort of moment for yourself, but that a lot of reaching your health goals and feeling satisfied, it's all in the mind, actually, right? So most people were all looking for some kind of tactical advice about eat carbs, eat this or that. Actually, most of it is in our mind, and most of it we kind of know some of the things we have to do, which is eat less garbage, eat more whole foods, right? So the most important part is we have to understand why we're eating, address the root cause, right? So if you're bored, fill your time with something that's meaningful, right? If you're bored and you're not exercising and you want a healthier body, why aren't you exercising? Why aren't you using that time to do something productive, right? So that's a way you can address your boredom, right? Do something to better yourself. Think about a big goal. Think about something that you want to achieve and work towards it. And you might suck at it at first. That's just normal, always normal. But you don't get good at something without sucking at it. So then the other main reason I would say that we tend to overeat is out of habit, right? These kind of habits can be in a lot of different ways. One is maybe just, for example, in a single meal, we're used to eating until we have this feeling where our stomach is pressing outwards, right? And if we don't have that feeling, we don't think our meal is over, right? I know I tended to be like this for a long time as well. So if I didn't have like my stomach pushing out, my pants feeling tighter, I would continue to look for food. And this is probably a common in a lot of cultures where food is love. You know, like your mom or your grandparents would be like, just eat more, just eat more, just eat more, right? But in reality, that's not ideal for our health or even just overall our maybe like your look. I mean, I think it's fair to say like we all want to look a certain way. I know some people might think it's superficial, but I think it's just honest, right? So, just out of habit, maybe over 10, 20 years of life, you've built this habit of stuffing yourself until your stomach is pushing out. And so it takes a shift in your mindset and a constant practice to tell yourself, okay, I ate, so I'm comfortable now. And this new feeling of being comfortable is when the meal stops, all right? And for some of us, that can be a very big challenge, especially if we eat very quickly. I am also a super fast eater, so I had to measure out my portions to, figure out what's an appropriate amount for me to eat, so that I could choose the right portions. Now, you could take a different approach. You could take an opposite approach and say, all right, I'm just going to eat slower. I'm going to eat mindfully and eat to 80% full. And that's a good way to do it too. So again, there's a lot of different approaches. Depends on the person. Some work better for you. Some may not. You got to experiment and try. All right. Another habit style of overeating might be, for example, you have this habit, maybe as a family or just every time you sit in front of the TV, you got to have something to munch on, right? And that's, again, this is a situation where you have this signal or cue, you watching the TV, in your mind, you're just used to rewarding yourself with this usually not so great source of energy, right? And it's all right. So you're getting pleasure out of the TV, you're getting pleasure out of it in your mouth, and so just thinking about the TV maybe makes you want a snack, right? And again, so this is not one of those things where you are feeding yourself because you need sustenance. It's just a habit and it's just enjoyment, right? So you have to identify sort of these habit cycles that you have. And I'm not saying you can't eat in front of the TV. That's okay. But when you do eat while you're distracted, whether you're looking at the TV or you're looking at your phone, you're much more likely to overeat because you're not in tune with the signals that you're eating or fullness or the flavors. You're not paying attention or savoring the flavors. So oftentimes when you do this, you're not like fulfilling your craving, right? Maybe you have a craving for chocolate. You don't fulfill it when you're watching TV and you're paying attention to something else. You're not paying attention to the flavors. You're not paying attention to the enjoyment you're getting out of this food, right? So, I would say as a general rule for me, if I'm eating to fulfill a craving, it helps a lot to really just focus on the food, the whole experience, the flavors, the textures, and that sort of enjoyment you get will fulfill that craving much better than if you watch TV. And that's sort of the times like you're watching TV or playing with your phone and you look down and you're like, oh my God, like how did this whole bag of chips disappear, right? So that's kind of those times when, you have to really evaluate, is it worth it to continue this habit of distracted eating, right? And I think for most of us, like if you can really just make eating sort of either very focused, pleasurable experience or primarily for sustenance, like that alone will change your entire relationship with food and prevent a ton of overeating. All right. That's what I have for you guys today. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, any thoughts, feel free to shoot me a message. And I will see you guys next week. If you have anything you want me to cover in one of these lives, make sure you hit me up. I'm happy to plan out, some lesson specifically for you. All right. Thank you guys. Take care.